Hey there. Welcome to Humanity Chats. My name is Margie. I am your host. We get together on Thursdays and we talk about everyday issues that impact humans. Today, we're going to have a very important conversation. We have Dr. Esther Godfrey from University of South Carolina upstate with us. And as you all know, there are things that have been going on in the United States that are just not good for the heart. And that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the Asians in the United States who have just been going through some adversity. Dr. Godfrey is going to open our eyes. And unfortunately, this is just a short chat. We're going to be talking for 20 to 25 minutes. But I have promised Dr. Godfrey that we're going to get back together maybe during the summer and have a longer conversation because I think it's so important to have this conversation. So at this time, we're going to bring Dr. Godfrey in. If you're here, hey, tell your friends, share this link with your network because this conversation is so important. This is Humanity Chats. Hello, Dr. Godfrey.
Hey, Margie. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for asking. The news today that the Senate passed a bill to stop Asian hate crimes, I believe you must have been beside yourself.
Yeah, I was very happy to see. I mean, it came through my news feed on my phone, and I knew it was in the works and would likely pass and had the votes. And I am happy. I'm happy to see it. I'm sad that there's a need for such legislation in our country. You would think that we had moved past some of that, but considering what has been going on, it is good to see that. It is good to see, and especially the numbers of support we had, the bipartisan support, that it wasn't a partisan issue. So that was good to see.
Well, yeah, that was good to see. Viewers, today we have Dr. Esther Godfrey from USC Upstate, and we're going to be talking about yellow peril. But before we get into that, we would like to get to know Dr. Godfrey a little bit more. And so, would you mind giving us a little bit of a background? Who is Esther Godfrey?
Sure. I'm a professor at USC Upstate. I've been there since 2008. My field of scholarly interest is 19th century British literature, but I also, when I work on 19th century British literature, I also work on issues of gender and race. And so I have an interest in how the West has been interacting with Asia for some time. And I also teach classes on Asian American women writers. So I live up in Asheville, even though I teach in Spartanburg. I have 3 kids, 3 cats and 3 dogs. So there seems to be something with the number 3. I'm originally from East Tennessee, and my mother is from China. She was born in mainland China, and when the Communist Revolution happened, her family escaped to Hong Kong. So she spent much of her childhood and teenage years in Hong Kong, and then she came to the United States to go to college, where she met my father. So I was born in East Tennessee. I'm half Chinese, and so sometimes, as I've grown up, sometimes I'm seen as Asian, and sometimes perhaps not so Asian. I grew up in a small town in East Tennessee where there weren't a lot of other Asians, and I certainly don't speak for all Asians or Asian Americans. And I have a very unique story, but I think lots of people have very unique experiences with race in the United States. And so I think that this is a really important conversation. I'm so glad that you've invited me to your show to talk about it. Thank you. I appreciate the outpouring of concern from friends around the country, and I think that that I and others who are Asian American really appreciate that. So thank you.
Well, you are so welcome. It's an honor to have you here. And, this is such important conversation. You told me about yellow peril. Do you mind explaining to our viewers and our listeners? Now, welcome to our podcast listeners. We appreciate you. 24 countries and counting. Thank you so much. Thanks to our YouTube viewers and Facebook. Thanks for sharing all over. We really appreciate all of you. Now, Dr. Godfrey, do you mind explaining what yellow peril is to our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, so when I was thinking about today's talk, I kept connecting it back to some of my research and some of my scholarly work in the 19th century. And yellow peril is a term that comes back from an age of imperialism, when people were, Western powers were conquering countries around the globe, including in Asia. And at the same time, there was a fear that the yellow race would somehow threaten Western culture, Western civilization, would take over, would infect them. And so the term yellow peril is a derogatory term that was used to spread fear and racist beliefs of Chinese, Japanese, Korean people. And yet that was a term that in the 1960s, Asian American activists kind of reclaimed and united with other movements like the Black Power movement. And so I just thought it was an appropriate concept now to consider in the age of COVID, since much of the propaganda that I think we can trace directly to some of the backlash and violence against Asian Americans in our country links back to this idea that that Asian people, that yellow people are somehow dangerous and threatening, and that we spread disease.
And that is so sad, that some people think that. I've heard all these stories and even seen on TV, people being attacked, being pushed, being shoved to the pavement. What do you say to people who are out there on the streets who are just who have just stereotyped Asians?
Well, I mean, I have so many feelings, and I guess I would just start with letting them know how sad it is. I mean, how it to see the images, especially of our elders being attacked, people who are physically often not able to defend themselves. Although we certainly have seen examples of elderly people trying to fight back, and sometimes succeeding, but the attacks have just been terrible. They're terrifying. I think they've made me make some connections between sadness and fear and even anger that this is happening. it's inexcusable. And I think that a lot of the violent rhetoric that's kind of ratcheted up in our country, it comes from people who are acting from fear and ignorance. They're somehow scared that we are a threat. They're scared not just of COVID, but they're scared of cultures that they don't understand. They are quick to want to believe that other people who are different from them do strange things or eat strange things like bats or cats or whatever, and that's somehow responsible, or that it was started in a lab as some sort of bioterrorism, or that it's interesting how some of the conspiracy theories all link together to different stereotypes about Asians. Even the kind of like 5G COVID conspiracies, and the linking of Asians with technology, or fear that China is somehow going to take over the United States economically, or in terms of the materials, the products that we sell in stores. I think that there's a lot of fear there. And if I could speak to someone who felt like they wanted to hurt Asian people, I think I would try to get to the source of some of those fears.
And in trying to get to the source of those fears, what would you have people like me who are willing to be allies, what would you have us do or say?
I think, like so many types of racism, what others can do is to speak out, right? Just to use your voices, which is exactly what you're doing with today's humanity chat. But just to correct people when they say things that are stereotypical or racist, or certainly promoting violence or conspiracy theories against other people. I think we all can do a better job of calling out words. I think for a lot of times, we believe so strongly in the First Amendment and that everyone has the right to their opinion. But we also have the right to call out and correct words that are harmful to other people. And I think I'm learning how to use my voice to do that more. I think often we're so shocked in the moment about what someone is doing or saying that we don't quite know how to respond. So I think preparing ourselves for those conversations with others when we hear them. I think documenting instances of racism is also especially important, and using your cell phones to document and call out people who have said or done racist things. I mean, even in Asheville, which is a fairly progressive city, I have friends who have had interactions with people saying, "Go back to China, you don't belong here." And some of my friends they're not necessarily Chinese, right? They could be Korean, Japanese. The people who are spewing this hatred don't care. They don't care where you're from, where your parents are from. They don't care where you're born. They don't care what you do for work, or how you contribute to society, or how much you pay in taxes, or what charities you support, what church you go to. It's just an instant kind of visceral reaction to the way you look and appearing Asian. And it's scary. It's scary to see that kind of hatred.
Yes, it is scary to see, and it's also scary to think about, your relatives who may even have to go through that and how your hands may be tied and you may not be able to help them. It is scary to see indeed. And we're calling out to allies out there, speak up, stand up for your friends and your neighbors. Do you think that the churches will be able to help with this if they promote, if they tell people, if they make them aware? Do you think that people will listen to churches, for example?
I I hope so. I think that certainly the way I was raised and the religion that I was raised in um, taught us when we were in Sunday school singing songs that red and yellow, black and white, they're all equal in his sight. And I grew up singing that and honestly taking it in and believing it. Um, and you would hope that no matter what faith someone is, I think the majority of world religions promote care and love for other beings, and I think that I know that there are churches who certainly are speaking out against racism. I think that there is more that could be done. I think certainly with the instances of attacking elders, there's no place for that in any religion. It's I can't imagine a religion that would condone such actions. And yeah, I mean, I think people live in fear. I just sent a care package to my aunt in New York for her birthday, and I included mace in it for her to to protect herself. And people are scared to go to the grocery store. They're scared to go to the library. They're scared to go pick up takeout. And um, even though they might try to make me feel better, like, "Oh, Esther, don't worry, I'm okay." My aunt emailed me today and she said, "Oh, I'm incognito. I wear a baseball hat and sunglasses and a mask." And I'm like, "Oh, everyone still knows, you think you're incognito, but you're not incognito." So, I've had my aunts, my uncle, like, here's the best mace you can buy on Amazon. This is how you can protect yourself. And for my mother, I'm terrified. I'm still I was doing it because of COVID. I was taking her groceries to her already, and now that she's fully vaccinated, I think I'm going to continue to just take her groceries so that she doesn't have to go out. And that's terrifying to think about. In the United States, you're scared for 70, 80-year-old, elderly people that they could just be randomly attacked. That's really sad.
Yes, it is sad indeed. My heart goes out to you. Now, listeners, these are real people. It's not like a movie. These are real people. Esther is talking about her relatives. That's not the kind of conversations they should be having, the best maize to buy. Um, Let us be human, tap into our humanity, and help each other. Speak up for your fellow Asian friends, neighbors. And some of you may not even know a single Asian. That's okay. You know Esther today. So think about her. For those that are watching, imagine Esther's face. Think about her when you hear about these types of issues and speak up for your neighbor. I see that we've had some viewers from Minnesota, New York. Thanks, Rosemont, Angela. The list goes on. Thank you for tuning in every week. Please spread the word. Tell your network about how we need to stop Asian hate. This has been an insightful conversation. Talking to you it personalizes uh, personalizes the situation for some of us because we are seeing a real life person who has a mother who has to do groceries and have it delivered to her mother or take it herself. just because she is afraid that her mom may be attacked. Um, it's unfortunate that this world has come to this. And, as you said, yellow peril has always been there. It's not just during the COVID-19 epidemic, pandemic that we're learning about yellow peril. So this applies not just to our current situation, but I believe it applies to education, to the workplace. Before we wrap up so soon, our 20 minutes is up. Unbelievable. But before we wrap up, could you please give us some parting words so that our viewers and listeners can take that with them, and know how to act in the future?
I think I would just suggest if you don't know someone who's Asian, or maybe it doesn't even have to be Asian, someone who's of a different race, no matter what race you are, try to reach out. One of the nice things about the pandemic is that there are so many different ways people can connect virtually now. So there are a number of AAPI organizations, both nationally and in various states. You can look them up online. A lot of times they have workshops or get-togethers that are virtual each week. That's a great way to get to know people. Of course, the AAPI community is very diverse. So depending on who you meet in whatever virtual room, you'll learn different things about different cultures. And I think that that's a big part of it is if we can't travel, let's travel in our minds. Let's get to know each other and become closer digitally, because I think that is really the key to stopping hate, is to start to see people as humans.
Very well said. Very well said. We have to stop the hate and see individuals as humans, see each other as humans. Thank you so much, Dr. Esther Godfrey.
Thanks for having me.
This has been insightful. Viewers, don't go away, because 7 p.m. we're bringing you Jed Derryberry to talk all things education. He's the author of The Playful Classroom. I'm curious as to what he's going to say, because he believes in inserting play into becoming our best selves. And so during this time of mental stress and everything that's going on, I think it'd be good to hear what Mr. Derryberry has to tell us. And so sign back on, download another podcast. We're here for you. This has been Humanity Chats with Margie. And today we had Dr. Esther Godfrey of USC Upstate. Thank you so much, and we will see you soon. Bye, y'all.